Tonight I'm going to suck your blood.
Hello Marvel Legends and welcome back to Displaying Model Behavior, and it is once again time for a Legends Legacy review. It feels good to be doing these again. I've kind of stepped back from these and tried a few different things. A wrestling show, that didn't really work out. Did like a little movie kind of retrospective. That didn't really work out, only because of copyright issues. Just, why can't I just take other people's work and put it up on my channel? What is wrong with that? Why can't I just show the entirety of RoboCop on my channel? I'd get so many more viewers if I could do that. Anyway, I'm going to go back to doing what I do best. As they say in wrestling, I'm going to dance with what brung ya, or dance with who brung ya. The actual terminology is spotty, but basically go with what you know. And for me, it's reviewing classic Marvel Legends with my own unique spin. And today we have a real favorite of mine. We have the living vampire, Michael Morbius. Oh yeah, a figure who is getting a lot of press recently, or over the last year or so, because this guy, should we have had his film by now? I'm pretty sure we should have. Then again, we should have done a lot of things by now in this year, but it is what it is. Eventually, we will have Michael Morbius hitting the big screen, and oh my goodness, is it a Sony movie? Is it a Marvel movie? Is it a Sony movie that references Marvel? Is it in the Marvel universe? We see Spider-Man, but which Spider-Man is that? Is that the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? Then we've got the Vulture, we've got Adrian Toomes, Michael Keaton making an appearance. What is happening? Very exciting times, but that's for a whole other show, basically, because we're here to talk about the action figure. And if you guys haven't got this is like my insider trading tip. Get yourself a classic Michael Morbius, because I get the feeling when that movie comes out, a lot of people are going to want this figure. And they should do, because this is, surprise, surprise for my reviews, a good figure. I really like this figure, but for a while I didn't. I was kind of like, I was sort of ambivalent on him. I got him because he was a classic Spider-Man character, because he appears pretty early on. So, as we always do, let's go into the way back machine and take a look at how Michael Morbius came to be. So, this is a character who appeared relatively early on in Spider-Man's run and is most synonymous with Six-Arm Spider-Man. That's where we first see him pop up. So, Michael Morbius is a scientist who's suffering from a rare blood disease, and it's causing him to basically degenerate and will eventually die. So, he's working on a cure, and eventually, as is so often the case with these tragic tales, the cure is worse than the disease. So he goes and injects himself with this experimental serum, which turns him into the living vampire. Now, he's not exactly a vampire in the classic sense. He doesn't have a lot of their weaknesses. He's not, affected by holy water or crosses or garlic. Sunlight won't kill him, but he is very, very sort of photosensitive, so he can't go out in bright daylight. It will weaken him. But the main thing, where he gets his name from, of course, is his craving for blood. His craving for plasma, as they say in the Spider-Man cartoon. Yeah, that was something in the Spider-Man cartoon. They had Michael Morbius, but they weren't allowed to have blood-sucking vampires. So instead, he has his little suckers on his hands, and he wants to suck people's plasma, which actually look more like horrific body horror than just a regular vampire. But there we go. So Morbius was introduced as kind of a tragic villain, basically. He was one of those reluctant vampires. And of course, he's introduced in the Six-Arm Spider-Man story, where Spidey has tried to cure himself of his Spider-Man-ness and ends up giving himself 6 arms. Nice going, jackass. But in that story, the lizard is involved as well, and it's all kind of like a three-way dance. It's a triple threat between the three of them, and eventually, in the end, they manage to defeat Morbius, who kind of bails basically. But they use his blood to cure not only Spider-Man of his extra appendages, but also Kirk Connors of his lizard affliction for a time. everything in comics is for a time until it's not anymore. So that was Michael Morbius's big outing. And then he would proceed to pop up every now and then in all different comics and storylines. He's normally always an anti-hero, so he's trying to do good, but he does have a bad habit of murdering people and sucking their blood. But that's not because he wants to. So very often he is painted as fighting on the side of good and doing what he can. There was quite a cool story where he used his scientific knowledge to save She-Hulk from a degenerative disease, easy for me to say. And she then went on to defend him as his defense attorney. So it was kind of a fun little sort of crossover there. But he's been involved with all sorts of different supernatural kinds of groups as well, like the various monsters and the Midnight Suns. That's why I've got Man-Thing on the ludicrously expensive Spinatron 5000. Ghost Rider here as well. In the early 90s, Ghost Rider had a storyline with him where he basically kind of convinced Morbius, like, hey, look, you know what? It's okay to kill people and suck their blood as long as they deserve it. And that's kind of what he's gone with from then on. So he will, search out sinners, bad people, basically people who deserve to get offed. So he's kind of a punisher, basically, just with an extra bit of blood drinking. And he's gone on to be a popular character. So, I would say that's pretty much it for Michael Morbius's backstory. Let's take a look at the figure himself. So, as so many figures are, he is a basic riff on the Bucky Cap mold, but what really sort of sets him apart is a very nice face sculpt here. Of course, my terrible camera isn't picking up on the real sort of nice nuances that come with the face. He's got a great grey wash that really accentuates the grey bones and sort of the hollow cheeks. And of course, he's got the dark eyes with the red pupils. And it's a great horrific look. And also, it's so good to have an actual expressive face. It would be so easy for them to just give him like a stoic sort of look, as many characters do. But no, he looks really dynamic, which is great. And I know what you're thinking. His hairdo looks so queer. I heard that. Little Simpsons joke. But no, the hair looks great. It's his very classic Morbius look. This exactly here is the most kind of classic, I think early 70s was when he appeared, Morbius. So much so that he has the silly, almost silly kind of Dracula looking cape here that's sort of jutting out at the sides. He has another cape, which was the one that I was mainly displaying him with, which is just a, flat kind of cape behind him, which I thought, no, that looks more sensible. I'll display him like that. But for that time, I was like, hey, it's just not very exciting to look at. And then actually, I just put this cape on to do this review, and I'm like, oh my God, this looks so much better. I should have been using this cape like right from the start. It's so much more dynamic and fun and interesting. Speaking of dynamic and fun and interesting, one problem I have is that you can't really pose him in the most dynamic positions. I'd really wanted to have him like, kind of like you can do with Pizza Spider-Man, have him like crouched over, but looking up and his hands out like, ah! But you can't really do that because of his hair, his long hair. He can't look up. There's not much head tilt. So if he's hunching down, he's just looking at the ground. So that doesn't really work. So I've got to have him sort of upright. And the Bucky cap doesn't allow much movement and flexibility in the hips. So you can't put him in a very wide stance. So I wanted a dynamic sort of look. And I can't really, he has to be more sort of upright. But even then, he just about, get a fun sort of pose. What I should do actually is play around with these hands more, because the hand sculpts as well, I think, are really quite fun. They seem to be a bit more claw-like than your average sort of human hands, and he's got the black... Is it black nails? Yes, he has the black nails as well, which is a lovely little touch, and Hasbro have a checkered past when it comes to painting or not painting nails. Sometimes some of the biggest characters, it would be so easy to give them like a different colour for nails. It's just the same colour, and it's like, you're just being lazy now, guys. With Morbius, he's got these teeny tiny little fingernails, but actually they look great. They've gone the extra mile to give him that attention to detail. Plus, you got the ears poking up out through the hair. It's a really, really nice effect, and I'm very, very happy with it. Of course, that just leads to the one obvious question. Brad! What? Bar! is Morbius.
Well, Dave, as this time you've picked us a bit of a creepy creature of the night in Morbius, we thought we'd kind of keep on trend with that and keep it thematic to him. So, coming in at number 3, we have a bottle of Vampire Wickedly Smooth Vodka. The number 2 spot, well, that's going to go to a can of Schweppes Zero Sugar Blood Orange Soda. See what I did? But number 1, well, this was a find and a half. It is a packet of Hershey's Kisses Vampire. Who knew such a thing existed? Anyway, as always, back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Brad, for that fantastic What Bar segment. And now I've got all of these wonderful figures out here, so by Jove, let's do a little figure comparison. Okay, so here we have classic Michael Morbius in all his vampiric glory, but he's got a lot of people to share the stage with. So first of all, a very obvious figure comparison is the most recent, up-to-date, modern Michael Morbius. I'd say up-to-date, but actually he's based very much on his 90s look. So we have the original classic 70s Michael Morbius here, and we have his more dynamic, maybe, counterpart from the 90s with the purple cape and a much whiter looking face and the jet back hair there. But it's a fun little comparison there to see how the character has evolved over time. And now, of course, we have his Midnight Suns counterpart here in the Ghost Rider, one of my all-time favorite figures. You know, the first figure I ever did a review of, the Ghost Rider. So here we have the two of them together with 90s Morbius here as well. But, of course, if we're talking about the Midnight Suns, is it Midnight Suns or like the Monsters group? I'm not too sure because I haven't read that many Morbius comics, but he is a regular contributor of justice and whatnot. I don't know where I was going with that. A contributor of justice? What the hell are you talking about, Dave? But he's regularly found with the Man-Thing. And then, of course, let's see if I can move this back without knocking them over. We have his first appearance, six-arm Spider-Man there. I'm talking about his first appearance. I assume this was when Morbius first appeared. There weren't any other comics where he first debuted. I will do my homework before editing this video, so by the time I make this live, I'll know if I'm completely wrong. And then finally, we have the Lizard, who was the other antagonist in that classic six-arm Spider-Man story. And there we have an impressive looking Morbius lineup there. Two figures I really would like to get are Blade and Elsa Bloodgood, because those are two sort of real classic monster hunting Midnight Suns type characters, and they're big sort of, you know, holes in my collection. So yeah, of my list of figures that I want to get my grubby little mitts on, maybe in 2021, it'll be Blade and Elsa Bloodgood to complete my sort of, you know, supernatural horror characters. But in the meantime, they got a pretty good lineup here. That's how these guys look all stacked up next to each other. So let's see where Morbius ranks on the Legends Legacy ranking. So where to put Michael Morbius? That is the question we're asking. And I'm going to go relatively high because I think he's a great representation of the character from the comics. And that's what this is all about. So really, we're going to go not quite top 10, I don't think. But it's a real question of, do I prefer him to Chameleon? Yes, I do. I think he's more interesting to look at. But then Lady Beetle, I think, you know, with her big wings and the translucentness, she is maybe a little higher, so I'm going to put Morbius at number 14 on the Legends Legacy ranking. And that, I think, is a pretty fair place for him. It's you know, quite you know, not maybe not impressive, but it's a decent, solid spot on the list because he's a good character, I think, as a representation of what the character looks like in the comics. Boom, there you go. You're looking for this? You know, I think that the face really does the character justice. I'm so pleased with this. You know, he'd get more points if he came with a different head, but he doesn't really need it because they cracked it. I think it's a really excellent head sculpt. And that's where he does lose a few points, is that there's no other hands, there's no other accessories. He has the changeable capes, which is nice. I do realise looks so much better like this, so I'm really pleased that I displayed him like this. And with all that in mind, I'm going to give this figure a sub rating of...
It's good! It is very good, Marilyn. But it's not great.
And that is Michael Morbius there. One of those figures that the more I look at him, the more I hold him in hand, the more I really, get an affection for him. You see also he's got the lovely raised collar as well, that classic vampire collar behind his head there. Yeah, I really dig this figure, and I hope that you've dug this review. This is good. This feels right to be back doing these reviews. So guys, what do you think of Morbius? Comment below, let me know. Are you looking forward to the film? What is the deal with this film? Is this going to be tied into the Spider-Verse? Is it going to be tied into Doctor Strange's multiverse of madness? I'm excited to see where they go with this. Who knows? Maybe we'll actually get to watch it in a cinema. You don't know what the future is going to hold, but what this future is going to hold is the Data Blast coming up. So check out all the amazing art that I found on Instagram and check out the contributors. Go give them a follow because there are some amazing people doing some amazing work. Also, join the Discord. The link's below if you want to talk all things action figures, then that's the place to go. If you enjoy these shows and want to throw me some shekels, then you can go to Patreon and follow me on there. I need to update that more. It's the world's worst Patreon, but if you want to just help me out, it's greatly appreciated. Guys, it's almost Christmas time, so I'm going to spend the rest of today putting together my Christmas special, and of course we're going to have our New Year's Eve end of year special where we will do a full rundown of not just the top 10 figures, but the best figures of the year. All sorts of great stuff coming up. So until next time, guys, keep displaying model behavior.